All righty. So if you are on now, congratulations, you are a designated team lead. If we haven't yet emailed about that, please email me so I can make sure I upload you. We are always looking for more because again, we are trying to designate kind of a core four to have multiple team leads to ensure some of you Floridians, y'all have been affected more than anybody because again, there are 30 offices. You guys have walked into an office and it's been you and the member of Congress and an LSCU staffer. We want to be well represented in these meetings. So we are diversifying our representation. Also, many of you know, and apologies in advance if you don't already know this, you guys are our veterans. Y'all are our pros and our experts. So where we know that we've got really solid leads, we may pull you into other meetings where we need more vocal attendees, if you will, because people are more likely to speak up when they hear from one of their colleagues. Again, we want you guys to help tee up the conversation, help transition from issue to issue, but we don't want it to be just specific to this group. We want to encourage others to participate because you guys saw there's a lot of first timers. So we make sure we're checking the waiting room. So Matt, if you can watch the waiting room since I'm not the best at multitasking. Tim, thank you guys all for joining. Michael, see you guys. Good timing. We're about to walk through the issues, but I was just sharing that our team leads are our trusted veterans. And so you may get pulled into meetings outside of your typical schedule, but that is because we need a more vocal attendee, a veteran somewhere else to help tee up that conversation and really encourage other attendees to participate because you saw we've got a lot of first timers. We do 90% of meetings are where you are the lead are based on your footprint, where your most membership is, where you have branches, all of that good stuff. But again, there may be a meeting or two where you're like, I don't have a huge representation in this district, but just know there is a reason for it and you're needed. But if you have questions, let us know. So you all know, the team lead master list, if you've been to Hike the Hill last year or GAC last year, you've seen it. It's color coded based on state. We've got 55 offices, so it's a pretty big sheet. That will likely be disseminated Thursday or Friday of next week. The reason we have to wait is because we have some offices who like to wait until the week before to confirm a meeting. You guys can see on the app, we've got a lot of meetings scheduled, but there's a handful that we're still waiting on. We have some every year. They just want to wait until the week before. And so we want to be respectful of you guys and be sure that we don't have you stacked in a meeting on the Senate side and then on the House side and give you no time to get across the Capitol complex. So we try to be mindful of that. And so that is why there is the delay in getting that to you. But just know it's so we're not double booking you, although sometimes that may happen. So if it does, please let us know, but we will get that to you hopefully sooner than Thursday, but ASAP, I promise. And as a team lead, sorry, I should have mentioned this at the beginning. Thank you. Thank you all so much for being willing to step up and to help lead because it is so impactful. It is so much more impactful to have conversations led from the credit union perspective to really show the true impact to credit unions, not just lobbyists. Because again, they hear from lobbyists all day, every day. It is so much more impactful from here to hear from you directly. And of course, you guys are the ones with the member stories. When we talk about overdraft, you guys are the ones who have helped a family who cannot afford groceries for the week by providing them an overdraft service, as opposed to sending them to a predatory lender or getting them on a path that makes sense and can help get them through the week to pay their power bill or whatever it is. So want to definitely encourage you guys, share those personal stories. For those of you who have been a team lead before, you know that in the mornings, conversations are a little slow. It takes some time for attendees to kind of hit their rhythm and know, oh, okay, this is where we talk about this issue. Oh, this is a good story. So they're really going to be leaning on y'all and learning from you. So just know that you guys are setting the example. So appreciate y'all stepping up because I know we lean on you a lot, but just know how appreciated it is. So one of the major things that will be expected of you, of course, one is transitioning from issue to issue. But also, give me 1 second, let me pull this up for you. We have got one pagers. We have got state specific one pagers. Again, these will be finalized and shared with you very soon. Make sure you all can see this, okay? So we have got state specific one pagers that will be left with each office. These are given to offices ahead of time. However, we also like to follow up, so there is absolutely no question about where credit unions stand on a position. You all, as our team lead, we will be handing you all the one pagers and at our briefing on Tuesday morning. So again, please be sure to attend the Tuesday briefing. But you, as our lead, we will hope that you will hand this over. It's natural when you start diving into issues, so that way they can follow along. And there is absolutely, again, no question about how we feel on a position or what we want them to do. So we just walked through the issues, so I won't spend a lot of time. I won't spend time really going through them again. But I will just say that, you know, one of the best ways to transition and open a meeting is by saying, Congressman Carl, you know, we're so proud to be here representing, you know, credit unions and consumers in the 1st District. Collectively, this group, we represent 395,000 members, just really showing that impact. So take advantage of this district data. Take a moment to look at the economic impact data, whether it's saying, you know, we're proud that last year we delivered $640 million in benefits. Don't be afraid to talk about the impact before you transition into issues, because of course that goes such a long way in showing the true impact of credit unions. So you all, as our leads, your charge is to transition when the member, typically a member is going to come into the office, they're going to go on their rant, they're going to tell you about all the things that are happening, what's important to them, why we should care, and you're going to thank you, smile, nod, let them do their thing. As politicians, they're paid to have opinions and they are not shy to share them. So we're going to let them do their thing. Some offices will immediately say, what's on your mind today? And you all, as our leads, it is your charge to pivot that conversation and say, you know, one of the most important issues that, and the reason that the most important reason that we're here today is because of, one, all of the attacks on financial services, whether the financial institutions, whether that's the Credit Card Competition Act or some of the CFPB, the federal or the regulatory overreach that's taking place. And so transitioning into the Credit Card Competition Act, again, this is one that you can really cater to partisan leanings. Again, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So we're really kind of grouping things together. And both of these can be catered to a member's leanings. And as our leads, your charge is also, you know, if the member of Congress goes on a tangent about something, or you know, you guys, if you feel like you've really hit the issue enough, because there will be times when, you know, attendees will talk a lot and you may be on your 10th person speaking on interchange, and okay, we have driven this home. Your charge will to kind of interject and say, you know, we think you understand where we are in this position. We're happy to answer any questions we have or you have, but really hit on the ask, tie a bow on the issue, bring it home. We would really ask you to reject any efforts to move this legislation. If you missed the last call, something that happened in the Senate in the last year and a half, we've had several holds placed on the Credit Card Competition Act and from our delegation, because there have been several efforts to attach it onto moving bills, and we fully anticipate that to happen before the March 8th deadline. So on March 5th, through the week, there are going to be votes scheduled. So it is very likely that the vote happens while we are in DC. So if there is another effort, which Senator Marshall has affirmed that he is solely 100% committed to doing so, you all could be the final straw that ensures another hold gets placed. And what that means is that a member has gone to leadership and placed an official hold on a bill from moving until a burdensome amendment or the bill gets removed from consideration. And that's what has been successful in stopping this in the past. So in the Senate, just know that ask may be, we need you to go to leadership and place a hold and explain the negative impacts on financial institutions, specifically community credit unions.
Hey, Grace,
Yes.
could I just add for a moment, especially around this, and I didn't want to say in that larger group, no scare tactic here, but to keep it authentic with you all. Durbin is fantastic at an amendment strategy, and priming this through the fact that it could get committee time would take it to the floor. He would be capable of taking that to the floor very quickly because of his rank, his tenure, his expertise, and also his procedural know-how. So when Grace says this could move quickly, it could be one of those things that, in our Tuesday briefing, hey, no chance, it's not on the calendar, it's not happening. And then by Wednesday, she's texting all of you saying, ask for the hold. And she has worked diligently in the past. We've had holds from our region. So we know their office is very amenable to it. So I just wanted to share that as to, what the urgency might be like on a bill that doesn't seem like it's moved too much as of right this moment. Even getting enough oxygen to gain another co-sponsor is actually a big step for something that's controversial.
Exactly. And yeah, I mean, really, I would say this effort to regulate interchange has never had as much momentum as it has right now. So with the thing that's interesting about the CR that we mentioned earlier in the last call, if there is a short-term funding bill, that means that there will have to be another CR pass, which means there will be another opportunity to attach this. So there's a lot of moving targets. Literally anything that's moving is a target for this. And that's why, again, I mentioned earlier, regardless of committees, it doesn't matter if someone's on financial services or banking, this bill is applicable to everybody. So if you do hear that, if you hear that comment, be sure to push back and say, well, we are aware that Senator Durbin has called for a judiciary hearing. Last fall, he looked at the farm bill, which impacts ag members. And again, of course, appropriators with all of these CRs being targeted. And we talked about some of the political strategies on that bill earlier, but also just mentioning it's an extension of the Durbin Amendment. A lot of offices have heard nonstop about it since it passed over a decade ago. And so that is reason enough to stay away from the bill. However, we are seeing more Republicans get on this bill. So that is a concern, but definitely play to their political leanings. And then, so this second priority, again, we should have a pretty final update for you on this during the Tuesday morning briefing. So again, please be sure to be there. But it ties perfectly into the issue of Credit Card Competition Act, interchange rails, and fraud. The fraud is going rampant every single year, every single day. Bad actors are growing more and more advanced. And it's you guys eating the cost. It's you guys who are making the outreach to the consumer, making them whole. And so we would like to see Congress do more, absolutely. But this is a step towards getting them to recognize that it is a problem and getting them to act. So we would like to see this included. We'll know again by Tuesday, but we'll be asking people to support the bill on the floor. And again, as you guys, as our leads, we may go on a tangent, you may go down the issue for a rabbit hole for 10 minutes, bring it back home and really drive home the ask. Then we are going to transition into increasing congressional oversight of the CFPB. We talked about that package of 3 bills and what they do and how they really bring the CFPB under the traditional appropriations process. They ensure a more deliberative decision-making process by making a bipartisan 5-member board and also allowing a Senate-confirmed Inspector General to really ensure that there is that oversight and that there is the accountability to Congress as well as the accountability to you all. Because again, we can take the number 3 and number 4, tie them together and talk about how the inflammatory rhetoric from the CFPB, it's turning consumers away from trusted financial institutions into the arms of predatory payday lenders. And so anything that Congress can do to combat the misinformation campaign against junk fees, because of course we talked earlier about the overdraft fee proposal, those things are going to hurt consumers. And this is another issue where we can play to their political leanings. Republicans are all about reining in regulators under this president's administration, cater to that, talk about how the CFPB and the Federal Reserve, we talked about the Fed letter, but which would likely be top of mind since the deadline to sign on will be the day before we're on the Hill. But talk about how these regulators are essentially legislating by press conference, by press release. They're taking the job of Congress and basically enacting rulemaking in untraditional routes, and they're going to have negative impacts not just on financial institutions but consumers as well. So really play to that political leaning. And again, with Democrats and more liberal members, really hit on the impact that this will make on those marginalized, low-income, underserved communities, and how they do lean on this as a service because, again, it protects from those astronomical interest rates that may be charged at more predatory lenders. So some things for you guys to be mindful of as team leads. We try to delicately tell attendees to play to political leanings. And we mention that on the app, as Matt mentioned, it says, take this route and take this route for here. People are going to get them confused. So if you see that you've got a member who is a credit union who is going on a tangent about regulators and this administration, bring it back home, talk about the ask, kind of swoop in. But again, just tying the two, coming back to the asks is a good way to transition. And then lastly, we want to leave offices on a high note. We want to be positive because, of course, these are two bad things that we're trying to move. Broad language is good, but tied to a bad issue. So we want to end on a high note. One, if you don't get time to the fifth bullet, say thank you. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your service. Thanks for standing up for credit unions. Even if they're not the biggest advocate, make them feel like they are, because it does go a long way. And if you do get time, a great bill that we're trying to gain co-sponsors on. And sorry, I'm trying to see the bottom of this. You will see it in your attendee packet. In the attendee packet, we've got, because we want you guys to feel like the experts, we've got the this actual sponsor names as well as the office contact. So you can say easily, if you are interested, the contact is Mark Smith in Senator X's office. And so just know that information is in the attendee packet as well. Obviously, we're crunched for space on the one pager, but that information is in your packet. So just bring it home, hit the asks, be very clear in those. And that way, again, there is no question as to where we lie on a certain issue. So these are the issues. We have a few more tips to run through, but I do want to pause and see if there are any questions on the one pager. Okay. If not,
Grace,
yes.
I actually have one question. I get absolutely everything on the credit card
Competition
Act. You had mentioned that it increases the chance of fraud. I get fraud. I'm not sure the exact tie. If someone were to ask me, how does it actually increase the chances of fraud? How is that distinguishable from all the other types of fraud and isolate in on this particular act?
Good question. And thank you for the reminder. I was moving very fast earlier, so I should have gone deeper into this. So if you could ask that question, very good chance that you do. Again, you've got the merchants and you've got Durbin and Marshall who are claiming that Visa and MasterCard have this monopoly over the system. So what they are claiming and hoping to do via this bill is inject competition into the market. So rather than allowing Visa and MasterCard to have complete control over the market like they're claiming, they're hoping to allow other actors into the payment system. So these are payment vendors that you will probably hear from and have heard of, groups like China OnePay, those who may not be invested in the latest security features like Visa and MasterCard are. And if you get asked about it, Visa and MasterCard have risen to the top because they're tested and they're true, and they are continuously investing in the latest security features, whereas others may not be. And this applies to many, many different things, but cheaper is not always better. And so that's a good talking point to really drive it home too. Oh, we lost you, Rick. You're on mute.
Thank you. That was very succinct, and that gave me the answer that I would need to give.
Hey, that's good to hear from a professor, so thank you. Alrighty, how might the budget bills and potential shutdown affect the week? We are there. Good question, Robin. So, if you weren't on the last call, things are going to be really busy. So expect that members might be getting pulled in and out of meetings because there's a potential that votes get scheduled at any given moment. Hearings, there are a lot of things moving. Again, we're running up against a March 8th deadline, so we are eating into the clock. Right now, we've got a great number of meetings confirmed with the actual member of Congress. Again, just be gracious, be patient, be polite to staff. If you end up with a staffer, y'all, I can tell you as a former staffer to an elected official, the staffer is the person who gets stuff done. The staffer is the one who is taking notes. They are the ones who are saying, okay, I can contact my buddy Suzanne in this person's office, get on this bill. My boss will like this. So show them the same respect and appreciation that you would show the member, please. But just be understanding if they do get pulled out. And again, that's why we have to really be mindful of time, keep it to our issues. If you see a rogue credit union attendee who starts talking about immigration because there is going to be a potential impeachment hearing or impeachment vote for Secretary Mayorkas, drive it back home. Another controversial issue we want to talk about is the CFPB or the Federal Reserve. You know, bring it back home to our issues and just be conscientious of time. One other thing I mentioned too earlier, but just want to reiterate for the whole group, because I know we had some new people join. The State of the Union is going to be March 7th. So the afternoon of the 6th, when we are on the Hill, there is a good chance that security gets backed up as people begin accommodating the State of the Union. So I would say, one, eat lunch on Capitol Hill. And if you are in the Capitol complex, do not leave. Use the tunnels as best you can. I will say, in my personal opinion, it's easier to get from the House to the Senate side outside. Just you don't have to wait through security, get checked in, do all of those things. That is your discretion, but give yourself plenty of time to get around. But there will be a lot of moving parts, and hopefully at our Tuesday briefing, we know it's going to happen with the votes on that the second appropriations package. But I was just in DC 2 weeks ago, and I can tell you appropriators are so fed up with the system. You guys may have seen last week, there was a ton of high profile retirements announced by members of Congress because the process is it has been challenging, and it's just a very difficult political environment up there. So know also that members of Congress may be exhausted when they come in. I know many of you have been in meetings with me when a member of Congress has come in, they have plopped down their couch, and they are going to share with you their unfiltered opinion on whatever. Just roll with it.
Hey, Grace, could I just let you grab a drink of water? You've been doing a phenomenal job. I know that's a lot of data to download on folks, and I will just take it simply to know that you'll never be without a staff member in the room. So, you're all experts, but if there's ever just one of those moments where something has gone off the rails, just look at one of us and we'll know that it's time for us to jump in. That second piece is, if it has gone off the rails, the most important thing that we're doing when we're all in there together is showing our cooperative strength, that we're credit unions coming in the room together with a united voice. So if it ever gets awkward, we're going to take that out of the hall and deal with it there and make sure we all go, okay, sorry, let's get back on the same page together. Never manage that in front of the member. You know that, but some of the folks who might be newer to the credit union space, they've never hiked the hill with an industry that does this, that celebrates each other and points to the credit union next door like, oh, you share that great story about you. Trust me, Wells Fargo has never turned to Bank of America and be like, why don't you brag about yourself in front of this member of Congress? And then the only other just really practical thing I'll say is, since you've been there before, you've walked the halls, you're not getting lost. If you don't mind, really do offer yourself up as kind of that buddy. People can follow you. Oh, right this way, because I do know that staff, since we staff every meeting, sometimes we kind of drop you off and then we might even leave before the meeting's over, just sneaking out and running to the next. So there might be some of that interim time where we don't want to lose people. We definitely have had people, text us, I'm in some cafeteria and don't know where to go. So just, you'll be looked up to as the leaders. And then the very last thing I'll say is this, there is definitely a play here. The reason Biden is having his State of the Union when he is about government funding. And it will be so tempting for the members to be not present. And so if you get in there and you get the sense that this is going to be, that it's not a good use of our time just to hound them on 4 or 5 issues, never forget, Grace has lined you up well, first priority. But really the first priority is to talk about how wonderful credit unions are. If that is what we accomplish in the meeting, we have done well, because nobody else has gone to the Hill in the last quarter besides Grace and a handful of our America's Credit Union team members to talk about how wonderful credit unions are. And so that is a good use of time. And sometimes we can be eager on the asks and forget to do that soft opening about just how wonderful the cooperative charter is and how important it is to their communities. So I kind of look to you in the next week or two to gather from your staff great stories, or remind the member, hey, it was so great seeing you at the branch opening, or it was so great seeing you at this XYZ community event. You always do such a great job being back home and letting, folks have access to you. That will change the tone immediately. I can guarantee you that wasn't the kind of meeting they just came from. So I just share that to say that these are also relationship moments. They're a point in time that we're building off with multiple contacts. And so if you don't get through all the issues, just let Grace know. Say, we didn't get to these 3, but turns out they're really excited about this kind of thing, and download that information to her, because she'll follow up. We'll make sure the staff will follow up and get the data to them or the info, but don't be afraid to make these relational conversations as well.
Good reminder. Also, as team leads, I know you guys are hustling and bustling, but if you can keep a notepad or something to write on, even if it's taking notes on your phone, if you learn that a particular member or a staffer are especially interested in a certain issue that we can get them to co-sign on, or if it sounds like they might support interchange. Right now, we have been very successful in keeping all of our members off, but again, the merchants are pushing really, really hard, and that's why they've had success at the Fed. And that's why they've had success getting more co-sponsors. So if you learn of a member, a staffer, an office that either needs more education on an issue, or that you think we can get to sign on to a bill, please take note of the office and the staffer. Send me their email. A lot of times they're going to give you a card, ask for a card at the end. That's very common. Make note and send it to me so we can be sure that we follow up and we encompass everybody that we need to. But it does go a long way. You guys make the difference in winning these members over, getting them to sign on to things. So definitely keep that in mind. And one thing I want to make you all aware of as team leads, you all likely saw the CNN story about Navy Federal a few weeks ago, actually now a few months ago. In the last 2 weeks, there have been a handful of meetings specifically between members of the Senate Banking Committee, members of the House Financial Services Committee, members of the Congressional Black Caucus, and others pertaining to Navy or with Navy. So we have a lot of members who fall into those 3 categories. There is the potential that something comes up. If it does, we are not there to talk about Navy Federal. We are here to talk about our issues. And I will show y'all too, we have got at the back of the booklet, which again, these are going to get dispersed to you. We have got some information specific to mortgage lending rates in the Southeast and just how well credit unions do. But again, we're not there to talk about Navy Federal. We're there to talk about what we're doing. So if you have great stories about this, be prepared to share. But this issue has it has quieted down. I'll tell you that. And I'll also share that in all of the offices I've talked to, they have made a clear distinction that Navy Federal is so much larger than the rest of most credit unions that this is not a credit union issue. This is not an industry issue. So take that for what it's worth, but just know there is the potential. But again, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about our issues. But if a member is concerned about mortgage lending in the credit union space, there's some great stats about how you guys equal or exceed bank lending and even credit union lending nationwide. So just know that that's in the back. We do not want to advertise that information, because you all know, you've been in Hill meetings. There are some attendees who will go rogue and bring up something that may not be top of mind or top of our wish list. And so just know, as our trusted team leads, you guys are armed with that information, but not trying to call too much attention to that to really anyone, just because it is such a divisive issue. But again, that's not our story to tell, and it is not something that is reflective of you all. So I just wanted to make that clear as well. And I believe that's all of my notes for you all. Any questions, any comments, any thoughts? Anything we can do to help you?
Grace, this is Steve Bosak from Guardians Credit Union.
Hey, Steve.
Good to see you again. I really enjoyed the fall Hill visits. For these Hill visits, for the first time ever, I'm taking a board treasurer. She's a volunteer. And just curious, does that carry any weight when you have a conversation with lawmakers or staffers, like you were saying, and Samantha was saying, to describe the difference between credit unions and banks, to show that our board members are volunteers?
Absolutely. That goes a long way, because obviously there are a lot of members who, despite going and seeing year after year, they see a lot of different groups. And it may dawn on them the differences in a banks versus credit unions. So talking about that volunteer system, talking about the difference in our structure, our makeup, goes a long way. We actually do have, and I remember, Steve, you were one of our key people on this last year. The Credit Union Board Modernization Act is very much still in play. We have a lot of bills specific to our charter, specific to board meetings, board members. Those are still top of mind, but we've got 5 issues that are really, really pressing. But that is something that we have definitely used to our advantage in pushing that bill, because just quick refresher, the board modernization bill would reduce the number of board meetings for federal credit unions if they so choose, not requiring, but if they want to reduce from 12 times a year to 6 times a year, because your board members are volunteers. They are not paid always. And that time that goes into those board meetings takes away from time that could be better served, used serving members, the community, and those sorts of things. So absolutely take that as a moment to educate on the difference of credit unions. Good question.
Thank you.
And we talked a lot about a legislative meeting, so thanks, Matt. But if any of you are interested in helping lead our regulatory meetings, please reach out to us. Just as important, we got a lot of things moving on the regulatory front, and right now, as you all know, we're seeing more movement in the regulatory space than the legislative, because it's hard to do just about anything in DC right now, given the divided Congress. So if you are interested, we would love to have you there. But any other questions or comments? I like the discussion. All righty. If not, we look forward to seeing y'all in DC in about a week and a half. Again, can't thank you guys enough for stepping up and leading, being the voice for so many others. If at any time you have questions, please let us know. And please remember to take notes of offices to follow up with. Otherwise, we will see y'all soon and appreciate you all.